Okay, now turn me on. Hello, people at home. We're just figuring out our technology here. And thank you for the incredible Lana Maree Haas. Next up, the wonderful Phil Roger.
Okay. I'm not sure how wonderful you'll think this is, but some of it is, yes. I'm just going to run through these as fast as I can because time's a thing. These are tankas. Tankas are like haiku for people that aren't satisfied with 3 lines. The red wasp has died, his sting no longer a fear. I will not miss it. Such grace in his sky dancing, and swift is the wind of change. Ancient rituals, colors and sounds exploding. I'm sitting still, ignoring all around me. I may be way too tranquil. At the table covered with sutras and ink, I remember her. I wonder about that dream, her soft skin and wet black hair. Everywhere they go, beings stop and talk and laugh, and I am invisible, only the voice of Buddha in the dark cave of my heart. So those are tankas. Now, it would help if everyone knew what Dada is or was. Everybody know what Dada was? It was an art movement after the First World War. A bunch of artists really wanted to take down the whole culture, and so they invented a thing called anti-art. And Marcel Duchamp took a replica of the Mona Lisa and drew a mustache and beard on her. And down at the bottom he put LHOOQ, which in Spanish means she has a hot thing, and that's the R version. So it was the whole idea, instead of, breaking into the government buildings, they just took a shot at the culture. So this is called the Dada hymn for the speech police. That Dada, you Dada, and everything else in the entire cosmos Dada are only 2 things, Dada, ought to give you something to think about. Dada, while you sit in that prison of a mind, Dada, unaware, Dada, that the cell door is not locked. Dada, and poetry, Dada, sleeping softly in the unlocked cell next door. Dada whispers softly. Words alone have no meaning. Dada, you slept through that revolution as every word melted into oozing gobs. Dada of gray water, Dada, did you know, Dada, that anti-art eats your children, Dada? And as they are digested, Dada, they attain Dada liberation, Dada. And rejecting logic, Dada, float freely into the Dada dream of freedom, Dada, that you choose not to see, Dada. Long live the reversal of wisdom. Long live the disconnection of atoms. Long live the flying mind. Long live the disbelief in borders. Long live the liberation of language. Now I actually have some Dada to share with you. I bought a little book on the Beat Poets. That's one of my main inspirations. You might figure that out by the time I'm done. And in the back of the book was an index of first lines with numbers, page numbers. So I went on to Google and did a random number selection and came up with about 20 different numbers, page numbers. And I looked them up and I put them down, and this is what came out. This has not changed except for just a couple of pronouns here and there. Even more fun than going to San Sebastian is seeing a face with which darkness could kill. So I suppose it hasn't been easy living with me either. You have my attention, oh anti-virtuous phallic, you're not for your pouring height. Alas, I gave you, America, my all, and now I'm nothing. Then my father died this spring. Now I've just realized that the stakes are myself. Crazy Martha was a girl after my own heart. Strange now to think of her gone, without corsets and eyes. Maybe I'm telling you a number of half-conditioned ideas. So I just shared Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac and Gregory Corso and a whole bunch of other people. Just the first line, those. Okay, here's a short one. This is mine. This is not Dada. I don't know what it is. It's called Simplicity. In a dream, we were discussing the complexity of our lives. I told you that I had formed a new organization dedicated to the simplification of one's life. You asked me about the group's activities, and I replied that the members, wanting to keep it simple, will do nothing. And we fell down laughing. What a joy to laugh in a dream. Okay, here's another Buddha poem, sort of. Each night of my life, I crawl back into the box that my consciousness came in, and I look at the old tintypes under candlelight. Today could be my birthday, but it's not. And I think how I listen to the low hum of the Buddha's bass guitar, and how it's the soundtrack of constantly being born in the cold hours before the dawn. I wonder about life's mysteries. Like sun and moon spinning in indigo sky, or the circular dance of black and white, or the timeless trance of love's embrace, or the fearful silence of the great stillness. These are the sounds that fill the space, and these are the forms that hold up the mind. Endless forms, free of meaning, holding up the temple that breathes and sleeps, and these forms move as wind and water. Lotuses spin, dreamlike in the cool breeze. And who gets to say what is real anyway? So it seems unlearning could decrease the yearning, and me and my mind over warm coffee and rhyme start all over again. And the wonders arise. Then they blind my eyes, and I stop for breath and refocus. Then I think of a word in the form of a bird, and I lift off into the clouds, which swirl with that wind and water, and the sun shines fire. As wind and water and fire dance naked to the low hum of the Buddha's bass guitar. I was watching some of the horror things happening in the Middle East with the rain, and thought it was ironic that I had chosen this for tonight. I go to the river. I want to know its essence. I reach into the water and cup some in my hand. Ah, this must be it, wetness. As I walk back to the road, I realize that wetness is superficial. I think that in order to know the river, I must jump in and then dissolve into the wetness. So I do that. It takes a while, but finally I melt and I begin to move. This is called Let There Be Black Lights. Who came up with the scary God? Burning bushes and floods and pillars of salt. Oh, come on, man. Fear and guilt and shame. It would be sort of funny if it were not for the epic tragedy of endless agony cooked up by the high priest of human cultures. But lo and behold, God is unbelievably easy to hang with. Once we get the Charlton Heston out of our bowels, the G-Man is, after all, Mr. Natural. You may not know who Mr. Natural is. Countless lifetimes for one big one. No matter, we learned to wear this fleshly disguise, this well-named mask, and then forgot where we placed the key. And Mr. Natural comes along and helps us with the zipper, and we put all the mask off and just sit quietly there with him, and we swap stories. And we say, have you heard the one about? And then we both roll with laughter in the absurdity of the question. I ask my friend if he likes the blues. And again, we both die laughing, almost. On it goes until the dawn. Just love and laughter, and thoughts are answered as soon as they appear, and everything is good, better than good, well, just right. And I ask, where have you been all my life? And the smiled response is like a radiant sunrise over the water, and the warm words of unspoken love say, I have been right here, just hanging out, waiting for you to open your heart. And we laugh and sing, and I am not afraid. You told me that you remember. You told me that you remember the night when in warm embrace the walls of isolation vanished. Was it not obvious then? Two hearts melting into wordless union, mixing like water poured into water. Where is the self? Where is being's boundary? In that moment, all the chatter ceased. The endless internal monologue simply fell silent. Like rain on thirsty earth, our hearts quenched with tears. This one's fresh off the press. It's all in the poem. Some of you might not be old enough to get all of this. Who wrote the book of love? Who wrote the book of love? Who put the bop in the bop, shoo-bop, shoo-bop? I think it was probably Peggy Sue, Donna, or maybe Dee Dee, Dinah. I don't really know. Now, some of you may say, are you serious? I say no, not on purpose. But my car's radio has Sirius XM, and it's set to the 1950s oldie station. Broadcast from the dreamland of ancient sound, from a time when holding hands was a top priority, when I longed to hold you tight in my arms was longingly enough, when I will love you forever as long as I live was a common refrain, when my true love was inspired by the urge to be mine, when the earth angels were not only loved but needed. And why was Susie always 16? They are like shards of hopeful and broken hearts unearthed by the hopelessly romantic archaeologist. Of course, in time, the sweet space of love's warm embrace awakened to the sonic blast of Good Golly, Miss Molly, with little Richard crawling all over his piano and Jerry Lee Lewis echoing that, and it began. And of course, Elvis. Rock and roll like a shot of adrenaline altered the world with a war cry, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. A revolution was born, but I must admit, I would still love to hold hands with my earth angel. Thank you.
I can't do the songs. Thank you, Phil. That was wonderful. Thank you, Phil, for taking us back in time. And now I am Dianne Silver, and I'm going to take you strange places. Some not so strange, some a little sad, some happy, but I'm starting out with a little strange. This is my poem. This is the first poem I ever had published. And now you can listen to this poem as if it's strange, poetic, metaphoric language, or you can listen to it as if I'm being like I was in my old job as a reporter and simply reporting what happened. So we'll see which way you fall down on the great debate about what does this poem mean. To my 5-year-old self at the Sweetwater Sea. And the Sweetwater Sea is one of the Great Lakes, by the way. Whoo, big bodies of fresh water. Hot sand will sting the bottoms of both bare feet. Ignore it. Mom will shout, it's time to go. Ignore it. Your brother will laugh. Ignore it. Your skin will open, pay attention, like the sides of a box banging down. Sun heats the inside, the walls will melt. It's incredibly bright. Surprisingly cool. Your eyes will adjust. You will see the line where water meets sky, swelling, subsiding, huffing up again. You will smell it, the exhilaration of fresh water. You have become porous. You are no longer of this earth. You could become a star. You could revel in light replacing fingers, toes, face. It would be easy, you know this. But you choose to stay. Remember this when your mother grabs your arm and drags you to the car. Remember this when the only escape from middle school is a cramped window. Remember this when you're alone and 21 and wondering if you should make a plan to die. Remember this when you open your door today. Okay, there's a long tradition in poetry of writing poems while looking at paintings, poems that have something to do with paintings. And you all know Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter? Yeah, and she does a lot of paintings with monkeys. Well, I have a print of her painting, Self-Portrait with Monkeys. And this is based on that painting. Frida Kahlo, Self-Portrait with Monkeys. I take you with me to the corporate office where unframed pictures are forbidden, where knickknacks on the desk are frowned upon, where dresses and pantsuits are the only coverings allowed on my body, where the air is thick with men with their hands around my throat. I hang you, suitably framed, on the wall across from my desk. All day I envy your cool eyes, level gaze, set mouth, your monkey black mustache, untamed eyebrows, the soft arm of a monkey laid comfortably around your bare neck, another monkey's arm draped casually over your shoulder, his tail wrapped lightly around your arm, while above and beside monkeys keep watch. I didn't know then about the pain that broke you open like a ripe melon tossed nonchalantly from a speeding bus. I thought you were nothing like me. Okay, this is my newest poem, which you heard the first version of, Michelle, which I wrote in October when, as like everybody else, I responded to everything that's happening in the Middle East, which is an enormous tragedy. This is called In the Middle of a Storm. Looking out the window of this house, on top of rocks, on the edge of the water, it's as if I'm on a ship in a plunging sea, except nothing is rolling under my feet. Nothing is beating at my ears but the sound of waves outside thrashing the shore as they're whipped by gale force winds. How have I come to be here, sheltered in perfect peace, while 6,000 miles away, A woman as old as I am, with hair as white, is yanked out of the room she hid in and shot dead on a couch. Her country then bombs the homes of the men they think killed her. There must be the body of another old woman or 10 under that rubble somewhere. Is this the definition of helpless? That war, like sea, can't be tamed, only endured? I can build a sturdy house, anchor it to rock, but if waves wanted to roar these walls down, they could. All I could do then would be to gather the broken bits in my arms, sink down on my knees, bend over the bundle of my loss, and cry. But no wave has ever leaned over a map and pointed, trigger finger drawn, at the best spot to launch an invasion. Should we not run from any language that doesn't call war by its right name? War is a blunder. Like sailors who should have sealed the hull of their sinking ship with thicker coats of handshakes and bread shared, with layers of old men's confessions and reparations. We have to fix this. I'm only safe today because I'm lucky. And now if you've ever felt out of it, this is called None of Us. Every kid who suspects they're the lost prince or princess. Every child who thinks she must be an alien baby left by mistake knows the truth. Even rich white men with Brad Pitt faces, overfilled trophy cases, must know what we're all afraid to say. None of us belongs. In this house, at this time, with these folks, in this job, in these clothes, we've carefully constructed to be a mirage. A coworker once said she must have missed school the day they taught the lesson on making friends. Everyone nodded. I didn't. I pursued the party pack, half a step back. When the giddy kids paused, I slipped in, lowered my voice, tamped down thoughts, laughed even though my stomach hurt. My gut sent me a message I couldn't read, but even if I'd understood, I wouldn't have believed. Square pegs desperate to fit in, round holes make themselves bleed. And now for something a little different. It's all pretty different. Should you choose to accept, your mission is to find joy. At the bottom of this hole, buried so deep between walls that you have to crawl, raise your head. Somewhere on the other side of this concrete, this lash of soot and words that pelt your face, waves sing on sand. Out there, the horizon is an unwritten line, the sky an open plain, the water a runway. It's clear you could go. Two more. Okay, some of you have read or heard this version, earlier versions of this. Let's see if this works. It hasn't quite 100% worked yet. It may or may not work this time. This is called Ode to Resilience, and it is for every survivor of abuse. Ode to Resilience. I need a deep breath for this one. Coiled spring, trampoline. Sisters of perpetual indulgence, hip swing. Dandelions jump back, turn to seed, fly back. Daylilies tolerate drought, resist insects, grow back. Boomerang, rebound, snap back. Metal workers know about spring back. Sheet metal that won't stay bent, no matter how they abuse it. That stuff is ornery right down to the molecular level. Penguins thrive where pythons die. Camels cruise where crocodiles fry. Phoenix out of their own ashes rise. Have you ever walked through a grove of sequoia? 30 stories tall, 3,000 years old. Cathedral hush, your mind flies open. Mental explosion, sequoia seeds won't open without fire. Now this part is true. And this is all true, cut a chunk out of a planarian worm, and it will grow a new head, a new tail, a whole new self. Time to seek the new out, to declare tongue and fingertips alive, to awake to a parade of French horn, cornet, trombone, and then caper down the street with my own trumpet pressed to my lips. Oh, resilience, do you hear me? I refuse to let the monster win. I will learn to feel my skin's delight. I will know the sensation of my heart unclenched in the middle of the night. I will hear my muscles' laughter when I push a barbell loaded with heavy plates over my head. I will punch so hard the big bag swings. I will charge up a steep hill, sweat slick, take a deep breath, and slowly, slowly exhale. Therapist's couch, gym floor, friend's smiles, secure door, lover's touch, memories push, bound back, take a chance, skip wild, free dance, leap high, fly, fly, fly. The phoenix unfurls its wings, shakes the ash off its feathers, looks up and launches itself into the sky. Now, this last poem, by all rights, should be called Daydream. It should be called Hope. It should be called Faith, but phooey on that. I want this to be a prophecy, so I call it Prophecy. In the ashes of our lives, a day will come when every mother screaming at her daughter, every father punching his son, every cop pointing a gun, every crook rifling through somebody's bank account, everyone trying to vote queers out of existence, every CEO pocketing a bonus for separating people from their jobs, everyone taking hostages, every general bombing cities, every man delighting in a woman's fear, every person sneering at someone with skin darker than their own, every bully on every playground in the world, all of us, all at once will stop. Mouths will shut. Fists will unclench. Guns will be put down. Hostages will be released unharmed. Anyone standing in front of anyone they've badgered into crying or trembling or looking even a tiny bit ashen will step back. Some of us will search for Kleenex. A few old-fashioned souls will take handkerchiefs out of pockets or purses. Wet eyes will have to be wiped before we've collected ourselves enough to turn to each other and say, I am so sorry. Days will pass, months, then years. All the needle-tip words, all our panic will dissolve into puddles that will evaporate. Someday someone will win a Nobel Prize for discovering that what we assumed were the ropes of our captivity were actually the threads of our cocoon. By that time, the sky will be filled with fluttering. Our wings will carry us everywhere. Thank you. And now, thank you. And now for the wonderful, the amazing Annette Billings, who will be reading down here. Do you want the chair? Or?
Yeah. Okay. To speak at a good place to grow potatoes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to share poetry and time and space with you this evening. It's my delight anywhere there's poets and poetry and people who appreciate both. Apples, peaches, pears, and poems. There is an orchard in my soul where poems fall from me like fruit, self-contained testimonials to every season I have lived. Now some fall still hard and green, blown too soon from me by an ill wind. Others fall lush and sweet, just right, ripe for some mouth to recite. Now part lay rotting on the ground, worm-ridden and awaiting validation from a harvester who never comes. The rest hang embryonic, a little more than a blossom's promise. I'll take these, you say, as you bruise my best and discard my worst. But I am absorbed in gathering them all. Too absorbed, in fact, to acknowledge you, fool that you are, who thinks I grow them solely for your consumption. This next bit of prose, written shortly after my sister and I think in 2012, found out that my mother had very severe congestive heart failure, and her doctors warned us that with any beat of her heart, she could rupture a valve and die suddenly. Well, my mother, Maddie Frances Jones Billings, lived 2 more years in Maddie Frances Jones style. This is called heart failure. I do not take lightly what the doctors say about my mother's ailing heart and its worrisome congestion. Nurse/daughter that I am, I could recite the implications of leaky heart valves by rote. Still, it riles me to hear them talk about her like expired milk. I know my mother's heart very well. I came into being just due south of it in her womb. It played the premier rhythm to which I slept and grew. Developing me listened with new ears, and I modeled my heartbeat after hers. I listened to the doctor's very well-intentioned admonitions. They say she is 90, you know. And I concede that I hold no medical degree, but still consider myself expert witness to testify on behalf of my mother's heart. Lub-dub, 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 lub-dub. I know someday my mother's heart will fail, lub-dub, lub, but it will not ever stop. You, mommy. Untitled. Today's horrid, haunting headlines, but I hear no collective gasp anymore. Is it that people feel numb or that they feel nothing now? After so many blows to the soul, have we become vacant? The gauge of our collective humanity on E. Has it become too exhausting to be aghast every day, with no time to catch our breath before the next tragedy assails us, before we can even exhale? How do we remain standing in the fight to be humane when grace and mercy can't even get a lick in. We need to bring back the gnashing of teeth, the rending of clothes, the marches of old women with bone-on-bone knee pain, carrying torches at midnight, wailing over the murder of children blown to bits before they know the sweet, certain knowledge of ABC. We ought to be rattling, we ought to be halting our morning commutes to vomit in the streets in sheer disgust over daily atrocities. Viewer discretion advised, as a way of life is sickening and sad. But no, horror has become too commonplace. Terror rests as familiar as the foam atop our coffees. We wash hands before a meal, but find it hard still to eat with all the blood that remains. Here we stand, a herd of crippled camels, the result of too many straws on too few backs. Worse yet than the mounting loss of life is the rigor mortis of compassion. A few haiku. A loon calls at night, sounds floating in cool stillness, notes across a lake. Earth readies itself as summer warmly departs and lets autumn fall. Above frozen lake, geese lower gear for landing, feet stretch to graze ice. Still in his velvet, a buck stands in the clearing, inhaling wood smells. Now, I like silence after poetry. Just the people absorbing and pondering and listening. Not that applause bothers me, but don't feel compelled. Don't feel compelled to. Laundry. I hang my soul's garments outside to dry. In the yard, on the line, in front of God and all to see. Nosy neighbors, people who drive by slowly to gawk. Deeply stained articles of my life just flapping in the breeze. Irregular edges, sewn on patches, scars soaking up sun. Unmended tears visible to the naked eye. I put them out there on purpose. I pin them on the line in defiance. I hang them up with premeditation, and I let them fly like flags. And this I do in hopes some splintered spirit will happen by and see my soul's garments looking uncannily like their own, those they are too ashamed to show, and may it release them, embolden them, dare them to free their own soul's apparel from dark, dank places and commit them to bright sun and fresh air, and to drape them in triumph beside mine. Bear with me, if you would, while I find one that I'd like to share. talk amongst yourselves. A net full of hope, yes.
We're looking. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Yes,
We
yes,
definitely
yes.
got more to do. We got an open mic, a little more from Annette. It's been fun. Wonderful. Thank you, Kathy.
Well, I'll do another one. This is one of my oldest and most favorite poems, and it was written after I fell in love with a woman for the first time, and it's entitled Peaches. And one of the things I used to enjoy about it is because it gave me a chance to mix my nursing knowledge with a bit of eroticism. And so I would say to people, you should realize that you should have 5 to 6 servings of fruit per day. And that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, because the serving is only a half a cup. And it's probably going on 8 o'clock now. And if you've not had your allotted recommended servings today, please consider this next poem at least a serving or 2. And that's how I would start this poem out, and I loved doing that. A very beloved woman who lived in Lawrence, Jessica Elise, who was a poet. It was one of her favorite poems, and she died, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago at 40 from malignant melanoma. So please wear your sunscreen. Please wear your sunscreen. And she died in hospice, and her partner tells me that she read Peach to Jessica within the last 24 hours of her dying. And there is a point in reciting Peach that I go, and as Jessica lay there within hours of her dying, when Macy, her partner, read that part, Jessica made the sound. So all the things that poem means to me, it's now Jessica Elise's poem, Peach. She sat sprawled on my front porch, all sweaty in cut-off jeans. She pulled a fleshy fruit from a crumpled brown sack and held it just beyond my grasp. Now that's a peach, she cooed, rubbing fuzz against her cheek. First bite, she offered. Well, I shook my head and waited. The sound she made when she bit it seeped into my ears, and the image of firm flesh succumbing to a tender mouth flashed inside my eyelids, and I felt woozy. She grinned between mouthfuls of fruit, and I watched peach juice run down her chin, run down her neck, run down between her breasts, and merge with sweat. My heart pounded. She nibbled and swallowed until only the pit was left between us, all wet and sticky and sweet. She stood, stretched, and her navel winked at me. She leaned down, and the juice from her cleavage fell in warm drops on my face. She kissed my forehead. She kissed my eyes. She kissed my lips and told me I was such a peach. Jessica. Morning love. We awaken in the cool of morning, stretching and moving like dancers to a shared warmth. I have been dreaming of you again, and you have been dreaming of me, and we share that familiar ache that helps dreams trickle into waking. The sun looks in our window as we open to each other like roses, pink roses, petal by petal, leaf by leaf. We open, and I am late for work again. Thank you.
Woo! Okay, wow, I think I'm going to be late for work forever. Wow, thank you, Lana. Phil, thank you, Annette. Oh, gosh, it's so wonderful. And thank me. Now we have the open mic portion of tonight. And we ask that each person read for about 5 minutes. If you can limit it to that. Is that okay? Or less. Less is good. Less is good. So the first person up tonight on our open mic is the wonderful Peter Lawrence. Come on up, Peter. And Peter, you got to use the mic and stand up here because we're being broadcast.
I got to use the mic? I need
You gotta use one.
one of these. I need someone to hold the mic for one of these because I need my hands. Not the first one. Not the first one. Okay, so I'm a songwriter, and Phil says my poetry in my songs is poetry, so I'm going to go ahead and read from a song. I've only written one poem in my life, which is like a straight-up poem. I'm going to do that one next. And they're both very short, so bear with me. I get my phone going here. So this is called We Are One in Abraham. And it was written, I think, 3 years ago. And I would encourage you to check it out. It's the Peter Lawrence Band is the project it is. The song is We Are One in Abraham. The words are dark. The music is the light. So the words just by themselves doesn't tell the story. And that's why, for me, it's not, I don't really consider it poetry. It's music because it takes the music woven with the words to make the whole thing make sense. But I decided to do this because of what's happening out there in the world. And you know, let the words sit with you. And then if it interests you, check out We Are One in Abraham, anywhere we listen to music. I'll see if I can get through this. We'll see how I do with it. Okay, here we go. When days grow short and darkness is thick as creosote, the spring can't flow at 32 and below because it's frozen shut. That slow train across Nebraska, it makes a lonely sound. Railroad cars go down the track, on and on and on. There's no peace tonight from here to Bethlehem, even though we are one in Abraham. A silent scream is deafening, but can't be heard. Everywhere it goes out, no one hears a word. But that slow train across Nebraska, it makes a lonely sound. Railroad cars go down the track, on and on and on. There's no peace tonight from here to Bethlehem, even though we are one. Even though we are one. Even though we are one in Abraham. So that's kind of the dark, but the melody is very beautiful and haunting, and when you hear it together, it will, hopefully, it'll inspire you. And then if you can hold this, because I need, this is, so this is a poem. I just take notes from the muse, so this is just how it comes in. Okay. God commanded the sun to set. Eager to learn, I lit a candle. And I read a worldly classic. In the wee hours of the night, when my eyelids, they lost the battle with themselves. I didn't tell you the title. It's a very short poem. I'm sorry, I got to start over. It's called The Folly of Willfulness. Okay? The Folly of Willfulness. If I don't tell you the title, it doesn't mean anything. What is the title? The Folly of Willfulness. Okay, very good. So this was all very intentional. The Folly of Willfulness. Okay. God commanded the sun to set. Eager to learn, I lit a candle and read a worldly classic. In the wee hours of the night, when my eyelids lost the battle with themselves, I fell into a deep, deep slumber. So when God commanded the sun to rise and the early bird to chime, I overslept and missed the concert.
Thank you, Peter. Open mics are always fun. Up next is Michelle Kirk. Am I the holder of the mic? You okay?
I got it. The one-armed bandit. This one has no title, but I was thinking of it when I was sweeping my deck with my left arm, and I'm right-handed. Hedge balls sink strikes onto falls, brittle leaves, curved thuds, caught by earth's weathered clasp. No parking space is safe until the toughened trees have cleared their branches. Okay. And this is one, Rhonda Miller is such an incredible poet, person, teacher, photographer, being of brightness, speaking of out of darkness, and invited some of us to introduce ourselves with a poem, I Am From. And it just came so easily, which doesn't happen very often, but this one did. I am from steeply slanted driveways, rolling cars into neighbors' yards, rolling hills, intersecting wide open plains, whipped by winds unyielding, tossing tumbleweeds across chalk rocks, limestone belying ancient stories that crumble into dust when lifted. Sandstone cliffs below clear skies so blue your eyes hurt to stare too long. Cloud chasers twisting and turning miles away, sweeping us inside as chaos clusters outside. Cottonwood trees rustle comfort to me in stickered, dry, prickly landscapes as I carve letters, numbers in stone that break before stories end. Oak signals battles long gone before me, burned into memory, charred lightning strikes call me forward, outward, above, sinking deeply into fertile soil as rain falls. I am from the infinite sea of stars, sailing the four directions, never settling fully, yearning, wandering, searching as the crow cries. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. I love open mics. And now we have the incredible, wonderful, and brilliant Christina Hook. Woo!
Thanks, everybody. Thanks to the organizers, and thanks to Annette for the long drive from Topeka. Most of my poems are pretty dark. But tonight, I think because the world seems darker, I picked some poems that I thought had some tenderness and some hope in them. But of course, that's upside down. And my name is pronounced Hauk.
I'm sorry. What is your name again?
Christina Hauk.
Hauk. Christina Hauk, who is a friend and who I do not say her name right, and I apologize to you.
That's all right. This is an unabashedly sentimental poem. It's called Mice. The field mouse is an easy catch, even at 3 a.m., when Appleseed carries it into my bed to play, waking me with ruffled cries as she tosses it into the air and pounces. I could do this in my sleep, switch on the lamp, fumble for glasses, then the plastic tumbler, swallow the last of the water, find the mouse, gray and dazed, trembling under a shoe. Scooping it into the cup, I wonder if this is how God feels, staring down at a creature infinitely small and uncomprehending. Can it be that I am as mysterious to him as this mouse to me? I stumble outside and kneel to tip the animal into freedom, the dark of the ivy scrolling along the fence. As usual, I have to nudge it forward with my toe. What with the cat nosing under the covers, maruffing, looking for her toy under the dresser in every corner, it takes time to fall back asleep. And I can't stop worrying about all the mice for whom I've merely postponed death. How did they find their nest? What if the owl is out? Forgetting what it is she can't find, my cat gives up and curls near me, purring, licking the taste from her paws. Sleep darkens me. My thoughts creep off like mice. The other side of the fence. From the house, all I can see is work undone. The new bed half dug, choked with new grass. The buckwheat flowering and uncut. The vegetable plot unplanted. The wall I meant to build, empty space. And everywhere weeds, fleabane, bindweed, and the eager, promiscuous, anonymous grass saluting the sun. On the other side of the fence, the grass has grown so high, the mower can hardly move without choking. Coaxing it back to life, I look past the broken shed toward the house and see purple coneflower, black-eyed Susans, red and white petunias. And oh my God, against the other fence, pink and green, Ella's flocks surging over the path. Ella's gone now. Gone to glory? I reckon. The work remains. I follow the machine, row after row, lay the grass on its side. Oranges. Gather them late from a sunny grove and chill in the blue bowl to serve the afternoon your friends are flushed, giddy from spring's fine heat, sun's sheen on the bay. Pass the bowl and praise for rough, cool skin on cheek and nape will mingle with the hum of bees rummaging among the blackberry. With the silver paring knife, carve rind and pith from fruit. The globe turned with one motion on the lathe of your hand yields a perfect spiral, orange and white as distant sails. Savor sweet juice on the back of your throat. Spit slick seeds onto black soil. Imagine the promise. In years to come, blossoming trees rekindle the light of this day. Thank you.
Say your name again.
Christina Hauk.
Christina Hauk, incredible poet. Newly moved to Lawrence, so we're going to have her around for a while. Up next is the fantastic Claire DeFolder, whose last name I may or may not have said right.
I also have a fruit poem. Annette, I have a poem called Peach, and it's about lesbians, so. Yeah, it's a breakup poem, so be prepared. Yes. Peach. I thought about last month's breakup text, eating a peach today. Gnawing at the immature fruit and searching for squishy sweetness, I only found a dry crunch. It did not come readily, the juice that is, but merely crested on the spinning suggestion of some summery satisfaction, then dropped off alone. It should have sat in the brown paper bag longer, but I came to it too soon. A ripeness unwanted by impatience made me feel like a rotten thing, her text, that is. This next one is called Air. Rhymes with Claire. Air. I sailed in on the wing of God. I thank God for the air. I made it my vessel. I found heat rising from the earth. I thank God for the heat. I made it my life force. I find people all around me. I thank God for the people. I make them my community. I find emptiness in my soul. I thank God for the emptiness. I made it my song. Can I do one more? Okay. That one I wrote when I was in Iceland this summer. Yes. This next one is also about Iceland. I wrote this after I woke up from a nightmare. So, it's called Fugla Fluandi, which means birds flying. White birds play along the wetlands, like souls glinting across a mirror. Too true to falter, small enough to stand out. Do birds in Iceland sleep in the summer when the sun skirts the horizon, rolling along the mountains? If birds sleep, do they have nightmares? Their divorced son never returning, trolls snatching their feathers in the dark and fashioning them into sacrilegious wings. Or perhaps, if they sleep, they dream of a rising heat, not below but all around. The cod dying out, the whales beached and leaking, the water rising to steal their playground. I dream of a shooting at a grocery store, smoking gun, broken glass, holding my breath, and I wake up knowing the fear comes not from obscurity, but from its tangible reality. I wish to be a bird in Iceland, where all I must worry about is the cycles of my body, to fly along the rugged purple landscape and call where I land home.
Beautiful. Aren't open mics fun? They really are. Our final reader tonight is Amy Nixon.
There we go. This is called Almost Grace. Dear universe, dear last ditch, I have nothing to pray to, too much of everything else. How to excise the wrong things, how to stick to the right ones, always mixing up the cleaving. I misplaced my laugh like a mitten. A slick pocket is a chilly understudy, but then also a purveyor of forgotten cherry cough drops. Dear hope, dear whatever, thank you for the sweet bites, for relief, for the half breath drawn into reluctant lungs. This is called Negative Space. 1. Someone stole the tower bell, snatched its iron peeling from the socket like a tooth, left us gumming air. 2. A man in a movie teaches math. A negative is a hole. He makes scooping motions with his hands. -2 + 2, he prods. Fill the hole. The pretend student balks, looks away. 3. My rental car shrills in reverse gear and beeps sorely at every threat of friction. She has forgotten the galaxy of hot sparks and scraps she was born from. 4. My friend and I are looking for petroglyphs on Red Rock Ridge. This carving is a turtle. That dancing one, a god or a monster. Here an etching spells Kyle. We shade our eyes against a high July sun. Come back in winter, a printed sign says. Come best at dawn or dusk. Someone knew we would arrive, and in the gap. 5. Sit among the whistling belfries, the cordgrass and Indian grass, the big blue stem and sedge. Catch the cadence of prairie wind striking their reedy chimes. Let the wind fill all your hollow places too. Stop resisting. Let yourself be wrung. And this last one is called ephemeris, which is a noun defined as a table or data file giving the calculated positions of a celestial object at regular intervals throughout a time period. I have a kindred spirit, magic, mistress of feathers, old books, and fringed leather jackets. She almost died, but didn't, then repeated the process. Her husband, a gray-barked marula tree, almost died, then did. That winter I became his ghost, walking the dog, cooking the food nobody wanted. I became safety net, a sieve to strain moonlight through, one side cupping the weightless dazzle, the other a mess of ragged chunks I mistook for stars. Magic would tell you she is the sky, but here's what I know. When the glitter fades, the true sky remains. A mirror reflecting flashes of lightning and illusion, the glow and the glare. It is a velvet dark cloak you can nestle your cheek into and remember the lost notes to your favorite song. There are no tricks here in the true sky. Its knees, dusty and solid, pressed against the earth. Rabbits and doves forage, uncaged, at the foot of the bed. In my slow dreams of spring, nebulae blink to life. Now you see me. Now you don't.
The awesome Amy Nixon and the incredible all the poets. And Phil wants to say something. Come on up, Phil. Hey, Ash.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We do a lot of things on Fridays, usually once a month. And this month, somehow, we ended up with 3 different activities. Next Friday, we are having a talk by John Musgrave, who is a Vietnam veteran, a decorated veteran. There's a statue in front of the train station in North Lawrence that is dedicated to John Musgrave. He's a speaker and a poet, and so he will be here next week at 6:30. And then that Saturday, his wife, who used to be my wife, is going to give a workshop on communicating with folks on the other side that have passed on. And so she has a gift for that, and she feels that she can show people how to do that. So there's going to be a workshop here next Saturday at 3 o'clock, and I think it's maybe 2 or 3 hours. I don't know exactly, but there should be some information out on the do what? Oh, I'm sorry. Her name is Shannon Musgrave, formerly Roger. We're really good friends. We saved that. So anyhow, I just wanted to throw that out, and we are trying to have activities like this. We haven't anything planned for next month, and next year's a blank canvas, so we'll see how that works out. So anyhow, thank you for coming. This has really been a joy for all of us, I hope. So I claim that, yes.
And thank you. I just wanted to add that we're hoping to do this again. We haven't figured out when. This is our first experiment, but we want to become more of a center for poets in the Lawrence area, a place to come and read and have a good time. Because every time I go to a poetry reading, I feel more centered. I feel more on this earth. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Phil, for really taking the lead in organizing this. Thank you, Lana. Thank you, Annette. Thank you all in the audience. See you soon somewhere else, maybe next week.